Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing my top 10 ways that I was able to have a natural unmedicated birth, including some bizarre things like hypnobirthing and nipple stimulation. That was weird to even say that word out loud, but yes, we're getting into it. If you're new here, welcome, and thank you for joining. Consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell so you're always notified when I put out a new video. And as always, a thumbs up goes a long way in the algorithm, so hit that thumbs up if you like this video. Okay, so I want to start off with a little disclaimer because this term natural birth that I put in the title of my video seems to upset some people, so I do want to clarify what it's actually defined as before I continue the video. And it is a vaginal birth, especially without medical intervention, such as pain relieving medication. So that's exactly what my situation was. So I am using this term correctly. And if that triggers you for some reason, then this just may not be the right video for you to watch today. My heart in my videos is never to make anybody feel bad that I had a natural unmedicated birth and they didn't. This is not a comparison game. I don't do that with moms. I'm here to support all moms. I also know there are specific situations where women cannot take this route or just complications occur during labor. And I just want you to know that does not make you any less of a mama. Every single birth story is unique and beautiful in its own way. So I'm not a professional by any means. Please make sure to consult with your own doctor if you want to try any of these things. But I did recently share my labor story. I will link that video right up here. And a lot of you mamas were commenting saying, oh, my very first labor was also medicated, and I also desire to have an unmedicated labor for my next pregnancy. So can you please tell us what you did to prepare and have a successful experience? So that is all that I'm doing today, is just sharing some of the things that I think really helped me. So with that, let's get into it. The first three that I want to mention are specific to things I did before I went into labor. So let's call it Labor Day. These were things that I already started during my pregnancy. And so number one is research. Shocker, right? Kind of, because with my first pregnancy, I went into it with the mentality of, oh yeah, I'm gonna try to have a unmedicated birth, and if it doesn't work out, it's fine. Yet I did zero research on what that actually meant. And so, of course, I ended up taking an epidural. It ended up being medicated because I really didn't have any knowledge of what I was going into. So it's basically like running a marathon without training for it, okay? You need to do some research. You need to have information, know what to expect, what's going to happen, actually know what's physically going on with your body, and just preparation before going into Labor Day. So while I was pregnant, I actually asked you guys, and a lot of you suggested Ina May Gaskin's A Book Guide to Childbirth. And so I read that, and my desire and my motivation just increased. From having more knowledge and reading all of the birthing stories, I was super encouraged to continue learning more. And it really helped me understand more about the history of childbirth and hospitals and the medical field, and just kind of how things have changed over the years. I also watched a lot of Bridget Taylor's videos on YouTube. I even took one of her mini birth classes. Just an assortment of YouTube videos. Like anything I can find that answered a question that I had, I was watching it. Personally, I felt that anything I needed to know, I can find it online. I didn't feel the need to pay for a course, but a lot of you guys told me that you did, and that it was incredibly helpful. Number two is having a supportive partner and or team behind you. Once you do some research, you learn quickly how important this is. I think that means, one, get your partner on board with what your desire is and explain to them, you know, I want to go natural, this is why, this is what that actually means. Maybe you can just share information with them that you've learned, or you can actually do a course together, which I think would be super helpful. For me, I just literally told Richie, like every day I was so excited learning different things, and I was just relaying the information to him constantly. So he was kind of getting excited about it, and so he was super on board with what I wanted to do. And then secondly, you may need to rethink your birthing team or where you're giving birth. The more you learn about it, you'll see that there's options like hospital, birthing centers, home births. So personally, I switched my practice from my first pregnancy to my second one because my first practice was with a doctor, and I felt like that experience was not, how do I say this? It did not lend to supporting a natural birthing experience. I just knew I needed to switch practices, so I found midwives this time around. I told them exactly what I wanted and basically just asked them questions to see if they were on board with all of it. So, you know, things like, am I allowed to eat or snack during labor? Am I going to be hooked up to machines, or can I freely walk in labor around the room? Like, those are things that I knew I needed, and that would help me. So I wanted to just make sure that they were on board, and they were. So I moved forward with them. I felt like I had a good supportive team. You might want to consider hiring a doula, which is just kind of that extra step of supportive person that like really knows what they're talking about when it comes to this stuff. I personally didn't do that, but I think that it could be a good route to take for someone who just needs more support. A lot of labor is making sure that you're focused and calm and breathing, and if you don't have the right people around you, that can really disrupt that process. Number 3 is exercise. This is something that obviously many of us know we should be doing during pregnancy, and I will be the first to admit that I did not exercise as much as I should, even though I'm pretty sure there was a video where I was like,
I'm gonna be exercising through my whole pregnancy this time around.
Number 3 is I plan on working out this pregnancy. Okay, so, and I didn't really do that. I tried for a bit and I was kind of on and off, but what I did do more of was a lot of walking, especially leading up towards the end of pregnancy. I was doing a lot of that, which I think was helpful, as well as utilizing the birthing ball. I also think that was really helpful. Almost every night before I went into labor, I would just be on the birthing ball here in the living room. We would just be watching TV, and I would be doing specific exercises on the ball. I also remember trying to do squats more in those last few days before I actually went into labor. So yes, exercise is a huge one. Okay, I'm now gonna be moving into the rest of the things that are specific to what I did on the actual labor day when I went into labor. So also, if this video is helpful so far, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. So continuing on with the birthing ball thing, that was like one of the main things I did right away when I started to get contractions in the middle of the night. I literally was like, well, if this is true labor, I need to like get it moving along, so I'm gonna get back on the birthing ball. I didn't really know what else to do. You know, it was like 2 in the morning, Richie was still sleeping, and I didn't want to just be stagnant and like not moving around and not helping the labor continue. So I just got right on the birthing ball in the living room and started to do all the exercises that I knew of. Basically, in order for labor to start off well and progress, the baby must be in optimal position. So that's head down, facing your back with their chin tucked. Certain positions basically allow the baby's body to rotate and descend into where it needs to be. So that's why that was major. I think in early labor specifically, I was on the birthing ball for like those first few hours. Number 5 is breathing. Like, this is obvious how important it is to be breathing during labor. When pain enters the body, our natural response is to like hold our breath and just tense up, and none of that is good for us while we're in labor. You want everything to be very open because you want your cervix to open. So all I did was, you know, look up some breathing techniques beforehand while I was pregnant, and I started practicing them actually while I would have Braxton Hicks. I would take that opportunity to practice my breathing, and I would do inhale for 4 seconds, exhale for 7. Practicing that beforehand and getting used to it just made it a lot easier when I went into labor, because it was like I didn't have to think so much about how I was breathing. Number 6 is HypnoBirthing, and this is like my top recommendation, I guess. So many people were asking me in my birth vlog, I'll link it right here if you haven't seen it, what was that in the background playing while you were in labor. So it is an app called Christian HypnoBirthing, and this one specifically is a woman's voice reading out affirmations, Bible verses, and prayers, and it is just the most soothing, calming experience. It really helped keep me focused, calm, encouraged, and just believing that I can do it. It put me like mentally in the right headspace, and labor is very, very mental. Super important to stay positive, super important to tell yourself you can do it, you're gonna get through this. Keeping my mind off the epidural, to be honest. I didn't really think about that throughout my labor. We just put it on our little portable speaker and like let it play out throughout the room. It got me, I mean, it played through like my entire labor. It was a massive, massive part of it. Like during the pushing part, which was the hardest part, I just remember squeezing Richie's hand really hard and just hearing the HypnoBirthing in the background and being encouraged by it and saying, I can do this, I can do this. It was really our way of inviting the presence of the Lord with us in that room. And, you know, throughout the entire experience, feeling like God is with us, we can do this, he's helping us through this, and it really truly made it a very spiritual experience for us. Number 7 is squatting. So keeping with the, you know, staying active approach, I found personally that squatting was incredibly helpful for me. Squatting into every single contraction, like pretty much, yeah, through it. Once it was active labor and it was a few hours in, I wasn't really using the birthing ball anymore. I was just squatting through every single contraction because it was so painful. That was the only thing that can give me some relief and help me cope. As I was feeling the contraction come, I would go down into a very deep squat and wide squat, and then Richie was like right behind me applying some pressure to my lower back. And not only relief, but it is again working with gravity and helping the baby really move down and descend into position. So I remember reading that and just squatting as much as I possibly can. And I will say too, like it took a while for us to figure out what positions were working well for me and what was helping me relieve pain. We tried a few different things before we were like, yeah, this is the best thing, I'm gonna keep doing this. And I would say, you know, try a few different things and really listen to your body. It looks different for everybody. I think as long as you're working with gravity and you're not like laying down in a bed backwards, anything like that. Number 8 is low groans. So I read about this in my Guide to Childbirth book. We've all seen the movies with the woman in the hospital bed and that high-pitched scream, screaming her head off that makes us so scared to ever give birth. But realistically, if you're gonna make noise, it's good to make a very low-pitched kind of groan. I'm gonna read this part because it's so spot on and I don't wanna get it wrong. Mothers who are moaning are using their breath, breathing deeply and releasing tension when breathing out. Less tension equals a more relaxed state, which has a positive effect on opening the cervix. In fact, the moaning of a laboring woman should be calming for all in attendance. Well, I don't know how calming mine was, but yeah, it's more of a low groan than a shrilling shriek. Moaning is most helpful when it is done in lower, deeper tones as opposed to high-pitched tones, as it will help keep the laboring partner's jaw loose and relaxed, which correlates directly to a loose and relaxed perineum. So that's why it actually does help literally open your cervix. Like, I think that is so cool. And that's why I was doing that almost the whole time once I got to the hospital, and just as contractions were getting more intense, my groans were getting like louder and louder and more intense, but I always kept them nice and low, and that just helped move things along steadily. And then towards the end, when I was in my pushing stage, they definitely turned into more of like a growl, a roar, you know? They were louder and they were more intense, and it was just like summoning up the strength and the power within my body to push the baby out. Number 9 is the most interesting on my list, and I mentioned this in my labor story and said if you want to know more, come to this video because it is kind of TMI. Not everybody wants to hear about this or can handle this, whatever. It's part of life, okay? And it is nipple stimulation. So this might be shocking to you. I already knew about it because I read about it in my book. So when I hit a point during my labor where it wasn't really progressing and my contractions weren't getting stronger and they were getting further apart, it was kind of stalling, and I was like, what can I do to move this along? So the midwife suggested to try nipple stimulation. She said that they can bring me some just like breast pumps and we can do it that way, or you can just go in the shower, get some soap and rub a dub, whatever, however you want to do it. Basically, the science behind this is that it helps release oxytocin. This can initiate labor, and it can also help make contractions longer and stronger. So basically, Pitocin is a synthetic form of oxytocin. So when the labor is not moving along, that's why sometimes they'll ask you if you want some Pitocin to kind of get things rolling. Essentially, the nipple stimulation technique is a natural Pitocin. So this could potentially work for you. I don't know. It worked for us. That is all I'm going to say. It literally went from 0 to 100 so fast. I can't even explain how much more intense the contractions got once we tried that out. I actually found online there was a study done in 2015 of a group of 390 Turkish pregnant women. They were assigned to one of 3 groups during labor: nipple stimulation, uterine stimulation, I don't even know what that is, and control. So the results showed that the women in the nipple stimulation group had the shortest durations of each phase of labor and delivery. According to the study, the average duration was 3.8 hours of the first phase of labor, so dilation, 16 minutes for the second phase of labor, pushing and delivery, and 5 minutes for the third phase, which is delivery of the placenta. That is not like a long labor at all. So it clearly worked in this study, and it clearly worked for us. I heard a few people in the comments before telling me that they tried that and it worked. So I know it's also a way that you can try to actually like induce labor. Again, talk to your doctors about this. All I'm gonna say is it is so amazing how this stuff works, because it just naturally moved things along, so I didn't have to, you know, take Pitocin or any medication. So yeah, I think that is the most interesting one on my list. And then number 10 is the shower, because at this point in my labor, after everything intensified, I was in so much pain that I needed some sort of relief. They suggested I go in the shower and just, you know, get some nice warm water over me, and it helped me so much. I was in there for 2 straight hours. I don't know if it was just like the water hitting my body, just something to kind of distract me from the pain. In there, I was still continuing to squat through each and every contraction, as well as groan through every contraction. So I was still continuing all of that, but along with the warm water coming down on me, it just helped so much. Once I got out, I literally wanted to go back in because the pain got like really, really bad again. I kind of wish I stayed in there longer. I also wish that I tried the bathtub, because I'm sure that would have been like the same type of sensation and experience and just soothing and helping you through contractions. I didn't end up making it to the bathtub. Nonetheless, it was super helpful, because once I got out of the shower, I shortly ended up giving birth after. So those are my top 10 ways that I believe I was able to have a natural, unmedicated, successful birth. I know that everyone's story is different, so people might have completely different things on their list or things that they think helped. This was just my personal experience. I hope this might be helpful to some of you out there who need a little bit of encouragement or maybe some ideas going into your next labor and delivery. I love you guys very much. Appreciate every single one of you. Make sure to follow me over on Instagram at NicoleLeGreen to see my daily life, and I will see you in my next video.